Hi everyone, today we're going to be creating a color wheel eye. So the very first step that you do is to create the iris, which will be your color wheel. You'll each have a circular object at your desk, and this is going to help you create the circle for your iris. So once you get your larger circle down, you're gonna have to measure to find the middle point of your eye, and then you're going to draw a smaller circle as close to the middle. So you see me kind of measuring the sides to make sure that it's in the middle. That is a strategy that you can use, and we're gonna just do our best to get it as close to the middle as possible. When you're ready and you find the center point of your circle, you're going to draw two intersecting lines to divide it into 4 equal spaces. Once you have your equal spaces, do your best to then divide each section into 3 equal spaces. Use your ruler to measure. Mine are about 1.5 inches. Yours may be different, but I'm gonna do that all around my circle. We put down dash lines where the lines will go, because you're gonna make 12 sections for your color wheel. So once you put your dashes down and you think that they're as evenly spaced as possible, the next step is that you're going to start to draw the lines all across your paper. You must make sure that center line, that your lines all pass or intersect through the center of your circle. Okay, so it's very important to do this step correctly, because this will set you up for a successful project. So you see me drawing all my lines going through the center, and I'm just going to number them. You should have 12 sections. So now we're gonna take a look at our color wheels and use the color wheel to label the sections of your circle. So we're gonna just label. It's always a good idea to label and plan out, have a plan of action before you begin working. So I've labeled my sections. So once you have divided your circle into 12 even sections, we're going to use primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, to mix up the full color wheel. So I'm getting my brush wet, I'm getting some red pigment, and it's a primary color. So we're only gonna use red for red. You're gonna very carefully, it's okay if you go outside the lines, because this is going to get cut out when you're done. So don't worry about staying inside the circle, but definitely stay inside your section. It's very important that you stay inside your section. So go ahead and paint in your primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. And then we will get to the color mixing. Okay, do your best to stay in the lines. It's okay if you get a little bit into the center circle. That will be colored black at the end of your painting. So now we're going to work on our reds and oranges. I'm taking my red and my yellow to mix up orange. Okay, and that goes in between. That's my secondary color of orange. Okay, and now we're gonna do the tertiary colors of red orange and yellow orange. So you have your orange base, you add a little bit of yellow to lighten it up, give it a more of a yellow tone, okay? And then you will remix a little bit of orange using your red and your yellow, except this time you're going to use a little more red to make it into red orange. Again, doing this as neatly as possible. Make sure that you are happy with your colors. You can always try a little bit on the side of your paper to make sure that you have the correct color also. Okay, next we're going to mix up our green and blue section. So I am mixing my two primary colors of blue and yellow to make green. You should be using equal parts of blue and yellow to make your green. So again, as neatly as possible, add your secondary color of green. So once you've added your green, go ahead and add a little yellow. Yellow into your green to create a lighter yellow-green hue. Okay, so whatever color you see coming first, yellow-green, will have more of that color. So you should be adding more yellow than blue to achieve your yellow-green. Okay, and now finally we're going to mix up our blue-green. So now, because it says blue-green, you will use more blue and less yellow. So your blue-green is exactly that, just more green than it is yellow, closer to blue. Neatly as possible, and there we go. Okay, now we're going to mix up our violet shades. First, I'm gonna mix up blue violet, so you should use mostly blue and a little bit of red to create your blue violet shade. It gets cut off on the camera, but you'll see it once I lay it down. So my shade is a dark blue violet. Again, a little bit of red, mostly blue. Now when we do violet, you're going to add equal parts of violet. I'm sorry, to make your violet, you're going to add equal parts of blue and red. No cheating. I know how to tell if you've mixed this from scratch. And now, last but not least, we're going to take the violet color we just created and add a little more red. So that's going to create your red violet shade. When you are finished painting, you may put your wet artwork on the back drying rack. Okay, once your color wheel is dry, we're going to go ahead and create the iris. So it's mostly going to be black, except you're going to add 2 circles as the highlight. So one larger circle and then one smaller circle into the middle, and then color everything with a black marker, nice and neatly. When you're done with this, it's time to cut out your color wheel. And now make sure that your names go on the back while we work on the rest of the eye. Okay, now we're gonna draw and shade the eye. So eyes start with a football shape. Go ahead and place your iris a little lower than the center and mark off the size of your circle. When you mark off the size of your circle, you're going to create a large football shape. Now this football shape should be almost the size of your paper, and it could be a little bit lower than the center because you have to leave room for the eyelid and the eyelashes. So once you get your football shape, you're just going to go ahead with your pencil and start shading or darkening up the outsides of your eye. Once you're happy with the shape of your eye, you can also wait and do this last. That's up to you. You can cut off the little bits of your eye and then glue it into place. You don't need a lot of glue, just a little bit of glue to attach that iris to the center. And make sure to line up the edges that you cut off correctly with the outside of your eye. Okay, so once you're happy with the overall shape of your eye, you're going to go ahead and add the shading and details. So right now, I am adding the tear ducts and working on shading that inner corner of my eye. So go ahead and create another little line, and that is going to be your tear duct. Now we can start adding shading to the bottom of our tear duct. So you're going in with a fairly heavy pressure to darken up that outside of the bottom of your eye. So you're going to see me shading, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, darken up that edge with medium to heavy pressure on my pencil. Okay, this will be one of your darker values. Okay, so once you've darkened those up, I'm going to add a little tear duct, a little line there to create creases, right? Because our eyes have natural creases around them. And now I'm adding my eyelid. Okay, so your eyelid starts very simply with a line, and it's mostly shading that comes after that. So once you have the shape of your eyelid, once you're happy with the shape of your eyelid, go ahead and darken up that very top line. So again, you're using medium to heavy pressure here. You're going to add your dark shading, and then gradually we're going to lighten it up to create dimension in the eye. Go ahead and darken up that inner corner. Also, below our eyes sometimes is a little dark, so you can add some shading there if you'd like. And I'm just going to keep shading my eyelid and keep adding darker and darker values. So you want to kind of gradually darken it up to give it that dimension. Now I'm going back to my eyelid. I'm adding a little more shading with, again, still medium to heavy pressure here. And you could even blend it out a little bit with your finger if you want to. Or you could wait until the end and do that at the very end. Okay, so we're just gonna keep shading. If you need a reference, it's a great idea to just look at the person across from you. Just look for the lights and the darks in their eye. And that's going to help you add your shading appropriately. So I'm going in and adding a little more darkness in the corner, and I'm gonna darken up my values again. So I thought it needed a little darkness. I went back in with super heavy pressure this time to give it a little more range of darks and lights. Going back in to shade my eyelid. Now this is the outside of my eyelid, so it's going to be one medium value. Okay, and then we're going to darken up again to increase that depth, to give that eye some depth, make it look dimensional. Okay, so darkening up that crease, darkening up the little crease below that's on my eyelid, and gradually lightening up your pressure. So now I'm just adding light to medium tones on the outside of my eye. Okay, and I'm also giving contouring lines to how our face shape would be. So be mindful of the direction of which you are shading, because it should follow the shape of the eye or around the eye. Okay, and now I'm adding a little more darkness to my tear duct. You're gonna go back and forth a few times until you find your correct values and you're happy with your shading. So you will see me going back and forth a few times, darkening up edges. So if you're thinking that your eye looks too flat, the best solution would be to increase your light to dark values. So as you see here, I thought it was a little bit flat looking, so I am increasing the dark values and it's adding more dimension, as you see. So I'm still adding shading. I'm going back in, adding even more darks. Okay, you can always add more darkness, but it's very hard to remove dark values. So it's better to work lightly and add darkness as needed. So I'm just, again, darkening up the inside creases of my eyes, trying to really increase the range from light to dark. The more range you can achieve, the more depth your drawing will have. Adding a little more darkness to my tear ducts. So you will go back and forth in shading your eye. You're going to have to adjust light and dark tones, maybe add some darkness or add some lightness depending on your work. But once you're happy with your eye shape and the shading that you've done, it's time to do the last step. Okay, it's time to add our eyelashes. You're going to start from that bottom crease in your eyelid and make sure that you follow the shape of your eyes. Curve those eyelashes to give it some dimension. Also, realistically, our eyelashes do overlap in certain areas. So you'll see that some of my eyelashes are overlapping. Okay, now you can just keep adding shorter lashes. Okay, once you've added enough lashes to the top, you can go ahead and start adding lashes to the bottom of your eye. So keep in mind, these are shorter little baby lashes, so they're not going to be as long as the top. Now, once I've drawn all my lashes, I'm gonna go ahead and thicken them up. This will also give it a little more dimension. Keep in mind the top of your lash, the end of your lash will be pointy, and the bottom should be blended into your crease line, your eyelids line. As you'll see, I'm thickening it up, and then I'm going to go back in and darken up the bottom of those areas so we don't see where the lash ends. Okay, going ahead to darken up that lash line, adding a little more dimension to my lashes as I go, and then darkening up. Same thing now on the bottom lash line. Just thicken up those lashes. Give it a little roundness at the root because our hairs are a little round at the root. So I'm really emphasizing those little baby hairs, and then of course go ahead and darken up if you need to. And here we have our complete color wheel eye. Great job, guys.